So here's our skeletons undercoated. First thing I'm going to do is just cut off those bars on the bases. As you may remember, when I assembled these, I kept the bars on because then it was much easier to get the feet in the right place. And once I've got those bars cut off, I'm going to start with a sort of white or off-white base over that black. I'm not going to put it on too thick. I'm not quite going to dry brush, but I'm not going to put it on too thick because of course I want that black to show through in certain places. So there's the last two. I particularly like this one with the horned helmet. And just on the end there's that sort of Japanese type demon that I mentioned before as well. I probably won't be painting that today because obviously that's a totally different set of colours for that one. So let's begin. I thought while I've got that brown out, tan earth, I'll just give a base coat to the prison wagon or the prison cart that I've got. So this is really just giving it an all over coat in brown, or at least the woody parts, and then I can dry brush and wash that next time to get a nice finish on it. Base coat for the figure done, base coat for the base done. Next step is to go in and start filling in some detail, the weapons, highlights, give the figure a wash and so on. And for that I'm going to take them off of the stick and I'm going to put each individual one on one of my spice jars that I bought recently. I did say I was going to fill these with scatter because I've got huge jars full of scatter upstairs. Not only will that give each jar some weight, but also you've got you know, a nice little method of doing your scatter as well. These came with several different tops. These holes are quite big. There's another one with smaller tops, like a sort of pepper pot really. So that's going to be good on a practical level as well. But for now they're empty. However, that's fine. I will just pop my figure on there with some blue tack, and then I've got access all around the figure to start working on the detail. So applying the wash is the next stage for the figures, and I bought a few Army Painter paints. I do have more on the way. I bought a few washes just to get me started. These should work much better for me than my old paints I've been using. And the first thing you notice when you shake it is we've got that ball bearing in there, so a lot less shaking required. And I've put a little bit into my tray already. This is light tone, but it does look fairly dark, but that's fine because I wanted to get a little bit of sort of staining on the bones as well. I didn't want them to look too flat. The other thing I should mention is I was talking about magnification the other day and some of the various bits of kit I've got. What I'm going to use for these is the cheapest option of all. These are just reading glasses. I normally use magnification 1, but these are magnification 2.5, and I can really see all the detail very clearly now. So I'm using my flat brush and I'm just going to start applying that wash all over the figure. As I say, I don't know if this is going to be too light or too dark, but you know, you don't know until you try. It's certainly very watery. I did add a little bit of extra water in, which may have been a mistake. I think I'm just going to squeeze a little bit more of that out and just use it as it comes straight out of the bottle. Yeah, that's better. So this is putting a nice stain on the figure, but it's not particularly adding much shading in. So I'm going to try perhaps a darker one on the next figure, but we'll finish this one for now. Yeah, so I'm thinking of using this more as a sort of stain or a tone than a wash for the shadows, but nonetheless that's starting to add in a little bit of depth. So I'm going to switch things up a bit for the second figure. I'm using a Vallejo wash. I think this is a little bit darker, and I've also switched to my finer pointed brush to really work that in to all the little creases. It might mean that the skeletons look a little bit different, but I don't mind that, to be honest. In fact, I think that adds interest because, you know, some will have been in the ground longer than others, so they should vary a little bit. Okay, so I did notice as well on that other figure, when I put these glasses on, I can see some areas that I missed on my base coat because these 2.5s only arrived the other day, and I use my 1 glasses, my normal reading glasses, for the base coat, which doesn't help with some of the detail. Alright, now, yep, that's better. That's going in really nice, and my point brush there is really helping that get in all the little cracks and crannies. Do skeletons have crannies? I feel that they should. So really just working all around the joints. I can't remember, I should know how many joints there are in the body. It's a huge amount. And we're going to paint every single one. So you see, model making can be educational as well as entertaining. Particularly want to start bringing out the features of the face. I'm going to leave the eye sockets black. That black undercoat really works nicely for that. But I'm just going to work in around the cheekbones and the jaw, the teeth, just to hopefully pick some of that detail out as well. Alright, a few observations. First of all, there are my spice jars in that handy holder that they came in, and as you can see, I've got all the figures on there. So excellent as a paint handle, excellent for storing any scatter or similar material, and as they're drying I can leave them there, they're not going to get knocked over. I suppose as they're spice jars we should have some June figures on there really. I don't know, is there a June role-playing game? Surely there must be. I don't think I've ever seen one. Anyway, that's those. My others are still on my horseradish jar. I should get sponsored by Bats really. And I said these figures are a little bit fiddly and a little bit fragile, and as you may be able to see there in putting them on these bases and that kind of stuff, I managed to break the arm off of one of those. But all is not lost. The good thing with these figures is both sets of hands are open. So I'm going to rummage through my spares box, see if I can find a nice axe or something to go in there. And I think that missing or broken arm just adds to the effect. So I'm not too concerned about that. That's what Bob Ross would call a happy accident. The washes, first of all, I love the dropper system. That's so much easier than trying to pour paint out into my tray here. I can pretty much control how many drops go in, and what I've found with these is a little goes a very long way. So you only need a drop or two to do that amount of figures. I've still got a fair bit left in there, so that's good. The other little tip is, I mentioned my reading glasses, my stronger reading glasses. I've just put some tape on the side. I know it doesn't look very good. It's like one of those kids at school who always had elastoplast on the corner of their glasses. But they're for indoor work. I'm not planning on going out of those at any time. But I just found that makes life easier for selecting the right pair of glasses. I'm going to let these dry for a bit now. I have gone a bit heavy with the washing places, but that's okay because we can highlight that. I did want to do the shields today, but I just checked some of my metallic paints, which again are very, very old, and they've completely dried up. So I'm going to have to get in some bronze and copper and some gold metallic paints at some point. And once these are dried off a bit, I'll go on to the highlighting stage. Alright, so I'm going in just to cover any areas I need to now, and also start picking out some highlights. I'm using my Tamiya white again, and here's another colour I found in the bottom of the box, made by Tenso Chrome. Wow, that must be paint from Samaria. So that's a sand colour I'm going to use just to not make the white so flat here and there, but I'm going to be quite sparing with that. Back with my nice pointed brush, and let's start working into some of these highlight areas now. I did mention on my Age of Sail painting just the other day about listening to music while I paint. I find that's the best thing. Having a telly on is too distracting. And I was wondering what sort of music people listen to while they paint. Have you got any good recommendations? But the other thing I listen to is podcasts as well. So of course I host my own, or co-host my own podcasts. We have the Innsmouth Book Club, which is all types of weird fiction and film, basically Lovecraft, but then the sort of wider weird fiction circles as well. And we also have one called Strange Shadows, which focuses exclusively on Lovecraft's friend, Clark Ashton Smith. The ones I listen to the most are probably the Prancing Pony podcast, which is Lord of the Rings, or Tolkien really. They've worked through the Silmarillion, the Hobbit. They're currently going page by page through the Lord of the Rings. And that's a very nice mix of what you might call in-depth analysis, but also humour as well. So it's not just like a dry scholarly podcast. Another one I listen to a lot is the Appendix N podcast, which covers a lot of the books that were very influential on Dungeons and Dragons. Appendix N was part of the D&D rule set, of course, which listed all those books. And I listened to what also used to be called the HP Podcraft guys. I think they're now called Strange Studies of Strange Fiction. And they started by covering all the Lovecraft stories and have since branched out into other weird fiction. Currently they're covering some science fiction. So those are three of my favourites. Oh, and Rogues in the House as well. That's an excellent sword and sorcery podcast. So I'll see if I can get some of those links up in the show notes below. But do let me know as well any recommendations you've got for podcasts that I might find interesting, particularly anything around fantasy, sci-fi, horror, that kind of stuff. My next three colours then for the weapons are going to be a dark brown for the spears, and then I've got a enchanted silver and a chainmail for the swords. And I think there's one, yeah, I think there's just one helm or helmet to do, so that'll be the chainmail. So I'm basically going to do the blade silver, and then the hilts will be the chainmail, just for a little bit of contrast. That's the weapons and what armour there is done. All I've really got left to do, well, I say all I've got left to do, I'm just going to go over these in a little while again, just to cover up any bits I might have missed or painted over. Then I'll give these their final wash, but that still leaves the shields. Now, I don't know how historically accurate it is, and to be frank, I don't really care. I've got some nice Vallejo bronze, so I'm going to paint all the shields on the sprues bronze, attach them to the figures, then I might, later on when I've got a bit more time, go over and paint these round shields in, or put some of those designs on. You might remember we've got the nice transfer set with these as well. But for now, I'm just going to paint all the shields bronze. So you may remember I undercoated the shields already with black, so that bronze will go on very nicely. I guess I should paint the back side of the shield as well. You can't really see them in most cases, but at this scale, you know, you want to add all that detail in. Actually, what I'll do while I'm here is I'll just do those bronze as well. So at least they've got some colour on, then I can always go over if I need to. And then there's these smaller shields as well. I don't know the name for this type of shield. Is there a specific name? I'd be surprised if there wasn't. And then I'll fix these onto the figures before we do the final wash. That's all the shields fixed in place. I've still got a weapon to stick into one figure, that skeleton with the broken arm. But the last thing I'm going to do now is do a soft tone wash just to bring out the detail. My last job for now then is I'm just going to put some scatter on the bases, just a basic sort of sand colour. I don't know yet what I'm going to do with all my other fantasy figures, so I'm guessing they're not going to be matching, but you know, that doesn't matter too much. And I found, I think this is from a British Napoleonics set of figures, this very nice spear with sort of tassels on it. I guess that was some sort of standard. There may even have been a standard to glue on the front of that, but I thought that was quite a nice weapon for him to brandish. Nice bit of movement there. So I've just got some basic PVA glue, and I'm going to add that in with some water it down a fair bit. Then I'm going to coat these bases and dip them in my scatter there. Now there's still a few things to do on these. I want to go over the shields again, and on those the big round shields, the hoplite shields, I may well repaint the front of those and put some sort of design or transfer on. But certainly this is the majority of the work done now. So let's just put that in. Give it a shake. And there we've got a nice sort of sandy finish. Sandy base. Is a lovely fella. Right, I shall get the rest of these done. So there we are, our 28mm Warlord skeletons. These are the first 28mm I painted for a long time. I think, as I've said on some of my other videos, I was painting 54mm and 75 and 120 for a while. But these are the first actual 28mm War Games figures I've done for a while. So I'm very pleased with the way they came out. A few little finishing touches still to do. I'm going to varnish them, I'll tidy up the bases, and as I said before, probably finish those shields off. But I'm very pleased with these. A couple of things I learned. One is that using stodgy old paints really doesn't help at all. And once I got those new paints in, particularly the Army Painter ones, things progressed much easier and much better and much quicker. Quite near the end of painting these, I did discover something called a wet palette that I'd never seen before in figure painting. I've got the bits and pieces to do that now, but I thought I'll finish this project as I started, and then when I get onto my other 28mm figures, I'll set up the wet palette and we'll see how that works. As for the figures themselves, overall really good. The main thing I would say, the main negative thing I'd say is they're very fiddly to put together, and I'm not sure how robust they're going to be on the table. They do feel a little bit fragile. I might see if I can weight the bases down a bit, perhaps tape something or glue something. The bases are hollow, so if I put something inside of that, that may weight them down a bit. And I actually had to do a bit of repair work while I was painting them. 2 bits got broken. That arm I already mentioned, I'm going to leave as it is, but a couple of the legs came free of the feet. Having said that, the animation is good, the posability is great, And I think the expressions are wonderful. To me, they really do catch that Jason and the Argonauts skeleton scene perfectly, which was just what I'm looking for. So yeah, very pleased with the figures as well. I'd be interested to hear if you think that there's anything I could have done better or any suggestions. And I'd also be interested to hear from anyone who's got these figures and has made them up and painted them themselves, how you approached it, and any pictures or videos that you have. Okay, that's it for now. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.